Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Angry Dave. Welcome back to Adult RC. Get the kids out of the room. We are here with the Traxxas Unlimited Desert Racer, one of the sensations of 2018. This truck is super fucking badass. This one I know looks brand new and never run. It's because it is never run. I bought it damn near a year ago at this point and have not run it yet because there's a few things I want to do to it before I ever take it out. As you can see, I already added a screen to the front windshield. It's just some, I think, 1/4 inch space chicken wire. You can get it at any hardware store. But it's a good size. It looks right. Most of these off-road racing trucks will run some kind of screen in the windshield so that if there's a vehicle in front of them, the driver and navigator aren't eating rocks or getting smashed with big debris and sandblasted. Well, they'll get sandblasted, but not quite as bad. So there's just basically a bunch of detail work I want to do to this thing. It doesn't really need a shit ton of scaling because it's so well done. And I got the front bumper off there, you can see, but it's got such a great looking chassis. It looks like an extremely real truck, got all kinds of detail work and stuff like that. But there's just a few things I want to do, really small stuff. Like I'm going to paint the jack, do some paint work on the bottles and the batteries and the extinguishers. And most of the stuff I'm going to do is paint work. I've heard these Lexan drivers referred to as wearing gimp suits, which I think is about the best way you can describe them. So we're going to do something with that to kind of separate the driver from the seat a little bit visually. They also give you a whole bunch of different screens and stuff on the dash, which don't have anything on them. I do have over, pardon my hand there, I have a Freakskins GPS that I stuck in there just because it's got some nice stuff on the screen, but I'm going to do a bunch of detailing on the inside there, a lot of paint work. We're going to get some window nets in here and just make the thing kind of overall look a little more detailed and a little more real. And then once we've accomplished that, I'm going to take it outside and beat the fucking crap out of it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and work on this interior since it's the hardest shit to get to. So there's a lot of screws all along the side of the chassis, up and down each side. You got to kind of take the bumper off. A little bit of a pain to get into, but once you get all the screws out, it's not terrible. You do have to kind of pry a little bit because a lot of these parts kind of fit into each other. Don't just start yanking, otherwise you'll break something. I don't mind swearing, but I'm not looking for reasons to, so you want to take it a little easy so you don't break shit. Alright, so here's our pair of fucking gimp suit dudes ready to do some kinky shit with Zeke. But we're going to go ahead and probably get rid of these stickers. I'm going to add some real straps so that they look like they're actually wearing harnesses. We're going to go ahead and matte or color the racing suits to make them stand off the shiny black background. We're going to do some detailing across the dashboard here and just kind of detail it up as much as possible and make it look as real as possible with a one-piece Lexan stickered covered interior. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start working on getting these straps off. Got this one off, came off pretty easy, left the little sticky shit behind. So we're going to use the hair dryer to get the last few off, and then whatever's left behind, we'll go ahead and use some Goo Gone and get that off. And then we're going to go ahead and take the heads off. That'll make it a little bit easier to mask and do some of the other detail work. Alright, so we got the belt stickers off the guys there. I'll grab a little Goo Gone and get the gooey shit off. And on to the next step. Alright, so rather than just spraying this shit all over the thing and having it leak under the stickers I don't want to go anywhere, I'm going to put a little on the end of the paper towel and just kind of wipe it on the area. Let it sit there for a few minutes and let it soak in, and then the shit usually just wipes right off. Alright, so after this thing soaks for a little bit, go ahead and take a paper towel and just kind of buff and wipe, and that'll take all the gooey shit off and just leave you some nice shiny Lexan. Alright, so decided we're going to go ahead and do these fire suits red. I'm going to use some Testors red model paint, water-based stuff, nice easy cleanup. Go ahead and, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to edge this by hand. I can always do a little bit of touching up with black, and probably will be easier than masking the whole thing. Just going to go ahead and do the outlining right now, and then I'll go back with a wider brush and fill in all the other bullshit. Let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. Alright, once you get your outline done all the way around, go ahead and grab a wider brush. Something like that. Maybe even a little wider. Where is it? And start filling shit in. Nice part about this part is you don't have to be nearly as careful because you've already edged. Might have to go back and touch some parts up because you are going to pull some brush strokes and have some black showing through. Anytime you're painting a color over black, you'll most likely have to coat it twice. These red suits are really going to make them driver and navigator figures pop out of there too. Alright, there's one coat on that guy. As you can see, I'm not going to bother where the helmet's going to be sitting on there. It's just a waste of paint. And down here at the top of the buckle, that's going to get some silver to complete the buckles on the straps. The gloves I'm going to go ahead and leave black. So time to start outlining the other guy. Alright, here we go with another outline. Grab the wide brush and start filling her in. Alright, so there we got our first coat of red on those bastards. So after this dries, we're going to take a detail brush, go along and touch up the red and black all the way around the edges and make sure it's all nice and crisp. Then once that's done, we'll go ahead and put a second coat of red on there to make sure that they're all nice and red and you can't see all that black brush stroke showing through that you can even see on camera. And then on to the next step. Alright, so here they are. 4 coats of red later. I decided not to do the edge touch up until I was done coating, in case I got some red on the outside edges with my new coats, which I did, so it's a good thing I waited. So now we're going to go ahead and bust out the gloss black. Take a nice fine detail brush, a nice fine tip. Go ahead and touch up any of the red that is where it should not be. And then we're going to move on to silver on the buckles. Alright, so we're all nice and touched up, crisp all the way around with red and black. Now it's time to grab the silver and go for the buckles. And I don't have any good way to get up close and film that, so we're just going to have it be done with TV magic. Boom, and there it is, done. So we got some nice silver buckles, we got the red all done, we got some add-ons here. We got the Traxxas logo on the suits, got some Mechanics Wear logos, the Simpson Racing on the seats, and then over here on the dash we already had this Freak Skins panel I put in, but the stock screen over here we got another Freak Skin GPS screen to fill in there, so there's actually stuff on the screen. Got some gauges over here right above the steering pod for the driver. So the next thing we need to do is go ahead and pull out the Lexan reamer and knock a couple holes just above the buckles, and then up here just above the shoulders on both sides get some 10mm black nylon strap and get some fucking harnesses in here. Alright, now that the painting is done on the interior, I'm going to turn my attention to painting the shit in the back here. We're going to pull out those fans, we're going to pull out the shock reservoirs, the fire extinguishers, and then the oil and the battery trays are going to come out. Most of this stuff is going to get painted. I decided, since I've started this project, that a couple of scale pieces are going to be, I don't know if necessary is the right word, but I was poking around online and there's quite a bit of kind of cool scale shit for this truck, so we got some parts on the way, and we'll go ahead and add those just to crank up the level of realism before we take this truck out and break it. Alright, so here we go, got the fire extinguisher painted up here, look a little more real. We got the black hose, we got the metal clamps and the metal trigger or handle. I'm not real sure what that top part is called. I guess it's a trigger and a handle. Black retainer strap and black bracket for it to be sitting in. The only problem I really see is I got a little bit of silver bleed on that bottom strap. So I'm going to go ahead and take a toothpick and just rub that little bit of paint away, and that should give me a nice crisp line on that bottom clamp. And then we'll put it next to the unpainted one and see the difference. Alright, so here we go. Got the fire extinguisher the way it comes stock, and then a little bit of paint brings that sucker right to life. Makes it look a whole lot more real. They even got the red and green and the gauge there. And yeah, so we're just going to continue to do this on as many parts as possible, make them look nice and real. Add some more scale detail parts, show you what they are when I get them, and moving on. Got the fire extinguishers all painted up, mounted back on. Now we're going to go for this little area here and take this whole thing off. Everything that would normally be aluminum, we're going to paint aluminum. Going to paint those oil bottles purple with yellow caps to represent Royal Purple brand racing synthetic oils, because they are an awesome fucking product. That's what I use in my real race cars. And the batteries, instead of painting them, we're going to go ahead and rip those right out and replace them with some Optima yellow tops, because those are a real common battery in race vehicles because they are an awesome fucking battery. So let's get on that. Alright, so now we got this assembly painted silver, so it looks like it's made out of aluminum. Next we're going to take the crates with the oil here, and we're going to take the shock reservoirs, and we're going to shoot them with mirror chrome. These boxes are going to be left mirror chrome, and then the bottles will be painted, so it looks like they look like polished aluminum cases. These will have transparent red put on the heatsink part right here, and the tanks will be left the mirror chrome, so they'll look like polished aluminum tanks with anodized red heat sinks. And we might do a little change up with some brushing on the fittings there just to throw a third color in there. We'll see. Alright, so while the shock reservoirs and the battery hold down and all that shit are out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and rip this radiator out. We got a lot of work to do on that too. Alright, here we got the radiator shrouds and fans painted up. Gonna go ahead and peel off the masking here in a second and see how they came out. I know just a little bit of the end of these tabs on the fans are going to have just a touch of silver because the tape didn't want to quite cooperate there, but I can just touch that up with a brush. It's no big deal. So let's see what it looks like with no tape on it. Alright, the mask job was pretty good. We got pretty crisp lines. There's a little bit of shit here and there. A couple little bleed throughs. So let me grab the toothpick and scrape them off and make it look perfect. Yeah, so there they are, looking good. Nice and crisp all the way around. Time to put the assembly back together. So there's our complete radiator and fan assembly. You can actually see the fan blades in there. Got the radiator painted aluminum silver, so you'll be able to see that in the back of the interior. Go ahead and stick this back in the truck. Hell yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to mix up a little model paint, make some purple, and get on these oil jugs. I already sprayed the outside of the containers with the mirror chrome and then cleared them, so they're kind of like polished aluminum. And time to get on purpling up these bottles. Alright, there's the purple. Time for yellow caps. Alright, there we go. Some royal purple race oil in polished aluminum containers. Alright, now we're going to do the jack handle and jack. It's got these little bosses kind of molded into it to make it a little more sturdy. We're going to leave it alone on the bottom, but we're going to round them off a little bit on the top so that they're invisible, or at least invisible on top, and make it look a little bit more like a real jack handle instead of a plastic add-on jack handle. Alright, so there's the jack all nice and painted up. Traxxas labeled. Got the handle smoothed out there, so once it's screwed on, it won't be quite as goofy looking. And rock and roll. Another detail done. So there's the jack installed in the truck. You can see it through the back here. I turned it around so you can actually see the wheels and stuff. I know that's not the way it's installed in the truck, but I don't fucking care. Yeah, it looks pretty good in there. Looks a whole lot more realistic than the gray plastic. While I was up in this neighborhood, I also got some small M2.5 hardware and put them in place of those molded bolts. I was going to paint the bolt heads, but I figured it would look even better to put real bolts in there. So I went ahead and did that. That's a nice looking detail too. I've also completed all this nonsense. We got in the two nice Proline Optima yellow tops. Got the battery cables attached there and got them wired so they look legit. We got the oil bottles that were already done. So as soon as the CA glue that's drying on the terminals is completely set, we'll go ahead and reattach this thing to the truck. Another detail we're going to add to this to make it a little more realistic are these hot racing suspension limiter straps. Get in there so you can see the part number. This thing already has suspension limiting straps on it, but as you can see, if I can get the fuck out of the light, they are like plasticky rubber and they don't look very realistic. So here we got some nice real nylon strap with aluminum ends. I'll go ahead and get those installed before I get a bunch of shit in my way. There we go, a couple of nice real fabric suspension limiter straps. Looks a whole lot better than a couple pieces of rubber. Even though they're buried down in there, you won't see them most of the time. They're probably a lot stronger than a couple of pieces of rubber too. Alright, so I think the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and yank the wheels off. Start putting on these nice aluminum anodized brake rotors. Look nice and real, look more like real metal because they are real metal. They should pop out a little bit better than these gray plastic ones do too. You can't really tell they're back there. And while we have the wheel off, we're probably going to do a little detailing on the caliper. They do make aluminum calipers, but they're kind of expensive when I can just paint these calipers for pretty much free. Alright, so here's the first step on the calipers. We got the mirror chrome sprayed on there. And we're going to go ahead and use this transparent candy red. And that should give us a pretty nice anodized look. Alright, here we go. Got the calipers painted. They're drying. Once they're all cured up and can be handled, we'll go ahead and start putting this shit on the truck. That'll do it for now. Don't forget to hit the like button and the notification bell, subscribe, and leave a comment. And we'll see you next time on Adult RC, where grown-up time is playtime.